Welcome to our rankings from the IEM Krakow event. We're going to be going top to bottom through the teams in a fun few categories. But today we got Davis, and we're going to be talking about the good stuff. What was your overall highlight?
I'm gonna say a low light actually. I think Falcons getting knocked out was like kind of a favorite moment for me, honestly, in my opinion, because I think it really is gonna wake up this team. I think
It
they know that they
awakens the beast.
yeah, exactly. Like you gotta do better than you did this weekend. And this was a big event, so like you would expect this to be an event that they come and like play really well, but just drop the ball.
Speaking of awaken the beast, we got Zaiwu versus S1mple for the first time in basically ever.
Yep.
So I mean, there was a lot of good stuff here. But the first thing we want to cue on is who is your shooting star for the event?
Yeah, so I actually have Soulfly from Aurora. I think he was like a big part of their success. Aurora had a really good event this event, kind of unexpected. And I think Soulfly last week or last event at the Blast Bounty, he didn't play very well. And I think it was just his first event with this new team. So I think you can't really expect much from him. But coming into Krakow, I think he played really, really well. And I think he was a large part of their success.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Flamesy. I think he played really well in the event, and there was so many times where Vitality looked dominant the whole time.
Hmm.
But there were so many times when you just need one more kill. You need somebody to get a weird flank on overpass and come up and shoot some people in the back. And he kind of just kept coming through in all those clutches on the Infernos on B side too. And it was like there were just so many moments where it's not often he gets the flowers he deserves, which is hard to say on a team that wins everything.
Hmm.
But it felt like he was a really unsung hero in this one.
So next one I'm going to ask you about actually is who was your favorite surprise from the event?
My good surprise has got to be S1mple. BC game and S1mple. I mean, they made it further than anybody kind of thought they would. But then getting to see S1mple back to kind of the old ways, playing Vitality, and at times like still kind of looking scary. It gives a lot of confidence that this year he's going to be on a top 10 team, whether it's a BC game or he gets picked up by somebody else. But he still feels like a top 10, 15 player, and I mean myself included. I think most of us were skeptical of that.
Yeah, mine was actually NRG. I think it's a big move for American Counter Strike. I mean, M80 was the team that we kind of looked at last year. We've also talked about Passion UA when they were Complexity a little bit as an NA org, but NRG showing that they've got a lot of firepower, and I'm excited to see it. I know we talked about that on Into the Smoke, how we want to see an NA renaissance this year and how we want to see an NA team step up. NRG showing that they might have the capability to do that, so that was my good surprise.
OC's back because seems very strong at times.
Yeah, 100%.
The next one we want to hop into is taking out the trash. Who we throwing out this week?
So I couldn't decide. It was going to be if it was going to be a team or if it was going to be an individual. And if it was a team, it was going to be Faze. If it's an individual, it's going to be someone from that roster. So for me, it's actually going to be Twizzed. I think Brokey is also a good shout for this. I think both of them just dropped the ball completely. But for me, the reason I'm taking out Twizzed is because he played so good at the major and when he first joined this team. And also the last event on a Liquid, he played really good. So I just don't know how he's dropped the ball like he has. And he's got to turn things around or the trash going to be taken out.
Yeah, for me, this one's easy. We're taking out Kixon and Tessus.
Mhm.
Dude, something's got to happen with those cats. Their last 10 maps, 0.91 rating. I think it's a 0.86 rating. And one of them has a 0.68 rating on the T side. It just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
They look out of place on such a good roster. It's not that they're bad players. It's not that they're bad people. But when you're on a roster that's the most expensive one in Counter-Strike and then the one that should be winning everything, and you're not, it's not good. You gotta figure something out. You gotta get rid of these cats.
100%. They definitely have not been good. That's the weak point of the team. All right, well, enough of our favorites. We're going to jump into the ratings now for our teams. For the first one, we're going to go reverse order from how they finished in this event. So starting off with the MongolZ, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, they came in last, and they're probably deserving that. For me, I got them coming in at a 5. I mean, I think this is unfortunately probably going to be what we're going to expect for this team moving forward. Again, 5 for me is average, middle of the road. You didn't do particularly bad. You didn't do particularly good. And that's kind of what I expect. I don't really think they got any issues with the new player. I mean, other than the fact that his name is a knockoff of coldzera. They didn't look bad, but Mazzino and Techno at times had really bad series, and it just doesn't look good for this team.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I have a 5 as well. I'm going to be using 5 as my average too. I think they kind of got dealt a hard hand. I mean, they're playing Furia and also G2, and those are two teams that, kind of like you said, I wouldn't expect them to beat with the current landscape of their team. One thing I do think that was like good for them is like I think 910 actually had some good moments on the op, which is what if this team's going to be good, you need him to pop off on the op for sure. But kind of like you said, I mean, it was the average what you expect from this team, so 5 for me.
Next up, we've got a surprising double bounce here. Parivision, quick 0-2 and out.
Mm-hmm. I actually have them at a 7. I think they had a good stage 1. I mean, they won 2 games back to back, 2-0. They beat Aurora and Heroic, and Aurora was the team that was really on fire this event. So I actually put a lot of merit into that win. And I still view this team, like I know they won the Blast Bounty, but I still view them as a team that's kind of like around the 15 slot. So anytime they can pull off an upset is really good for them. Anytime that they lose to a top team, I'm not going to weigh that down very much. So I think when they came to this bracket phase and they ended up losing, it didn't really play that or didn't really affect them that much. So I still have them above average at a 7. The main thing for me I want to talk about is Noda. He didn't play very good this event. He was like their shining star at the Blast Open event. So I think when he plays good, they have potential to beat anybody, and when he plays bad, they're kind of just average.
Yeah, I mean, I got them coming in as a 6. I think they did just above what they're probably going to be expected for most of the rest of the season.
Mhm.
The problem with Game Time is that it's figure outable. It's one of those that if you get behind, you don't really have the star power to do it. You need Noda or somebody else to light it up. I think James is a great strategist at this age of his career. I just don't know that he is that elite game carrying opera anymore. And that's going to be the thing that really hurts him. When you don't have Zwei laying a golden egg, it's going to be really hard for you to keep on rolling. And so, I mean, I think it's an above average result for them. I think 6 is going to be good. They made the bracket stage. They didn't make it a land, but hopefully this year they're going to come more lands in, and we'll keep seeing that team move forward.
Next, we're gonna have one of your favorites, BC game. What you got?
This is going to sound surprising, but I got them at a 9. I really don't think this team could have done much more. They got dealt a really bad bracket. I mean, the best case scenario they had to make it to the in-person arena was going to be to upset Vitality, and like that's an almost impossible task at this point.
Yeah.
I think at times we got to see Simple still there. I think the old monster still lies beneath. Electronic seems hit or miss. I mean, I never really loved him too much back in the day. He did feel inconsistent back then, and it feels like we're getting more of the same, but the core of that stall just that concerns me. And that's why at a 9 out of 10, you think that's really good, but this is probably about the ceiling for this team. Maybe they can make it another round deeper, but I don't see them making too many lands.
Yeah, I have them at 8. I had a really good performance out of them too. I think exceeded expectations just by making stage 2, in my opinion. So I think automatically that like qualified them about a 7 for me. But it was the fact that they took a map off of Faze, and they also played Vitality really close that pushed them to an 8 for me. So I think kind of like you said, I don't see the ceiling of them like winning an event with this current roster, but I think this is about as good as they can get. So I think 8 is a fair rating for it. And I think they played well.
Yeah. Next up, we got the Pride of America, NRG, led by our boy OC. What you got?
I have them at an 8 as well, back-to-back 8s. They had really good wins over both B8 and Astralis. So those two teams are two teams that I would not expect them to beat, so that automatically put them above average for me. And then they have a tough draw against the Falcons, but they actually played it really close. They were ahead 7-5 in the first half of the map 3 in the decider map, and then they dropped the ball kind of on the second half. But overall, I think this team really, really performed well. They've actually gained 17 VRS spots in the last month, so they're on the uptick.
Yeah, and for me, I got them coming in as a 9 because, again, like, I think this is pretty close to their ceiling with the current roster. And again, I mean, I think Nitro, OC, and those guys, like, they look good, and I think they're going to be in that, like, top 20 kind of range. But if they want to be able to make top 8s at events, like, they're probably going to have to do a roster move, or somebody's going to have to step way further up than they are. But so, like, this might not be their biggest, like, the complete top of the ceiling, but I think this is pretty close. And those dudes played out of their mind. They had a good run. Like you said, they pushed Falcons deep. And I just don't know how much more you could really expect them to do given their firepower. But overall, I was impressed.
Yeah, 100%. Jumping into the next one, we have Foot Esports. What you think?
Yeah, for me, for Foot, I mean, I give these guys an 8. I think they look really good. I mean, they came out, they clapped Furia real quick. Then they unfortunately had to go up against a hot G2 squad, that hot Astralis squad. And I think that this looks really good for them. I just don't know how they can kind of crest with that next kind of piece. But they feel like they got a lot of players. I just want to see more of them. It just feels like we haven't got to see enough of them at that kind of like tier 1 caliber. So like these players still might be able to kind of shift and mold and kind of step up a little bit more. They might still have a little bit more in the tank, kind of similar to a G2 team. But I think they're emerging. I want to see another good event or two out of them. But hey, you called it early. I think what Foot's been doing has been looking really good.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing too is like you said, they're taking maps off of everybody they play. G2 and Astralis both took a map off of them, so I'm excited. I hope they, like you said, have more tier 1 opportunities.
100%.
I'm kind of right there too. I think they just about have what it takes to take down some of these big teams. I mean, we saw them take down Furia, who was a grand finalist. They took them down 2-0 with kind of no problem. I think the scores were like 13-11 and like 13-7, so not that close of a series from Furia. So that automatically put them pretty high on my list. I have them at a 7. I think they had some tough matchups, like if they beat Furia, you would kind of expect them to win these games, but also it was kind of a miracle that they beat Furia, in my opinion. So they lost to G2 2-1, they lost to Astralis 2-1, but I think both of those two teams were playing pretty well this event too. So 100%. I still have Foot playing pretty well. I have them at 7.
Not for sure. Next up, we got Navi.
Navi, it was a hard one, but I put them at a 5. I think it was about as average as you can be. They beat Parivision, which was expected, but then they lose to Spirit, which was also expected. They lost to Furia, which is expected. So everything that they did this event was kind of expected. For me, I'm looking at MongolZ, and it's not that I think he's been bad by any means. I think he's been fine on this roster, but I think the reason they brought him in was for firepower, and they need a little bit more from him. So I think if they want to be a contending team and they want to be making finals and making at least lands and like bracket stages, they really need MongolZ to step up.
This one's tough for me because it's right in the middle of Magic's dream of a 6 and a 7, and it's just tough because, like, I think at times they look really good. They push Spirit to the literal limits. We saw them put Spirit in the exact same place that Vitality was able to just a short while ago,
Mhm.
but they weren't able to close it out. They weren't able to close it out in the OT. And then you just started seeing weird stuff. Like you saw the EAM team, almost team kill at one point. It
Mhm.
was just they started making some odd plays, but on other moments they looked incredible, right? And it's like this is a team that I do think, they're capable of winning events. They're capable of making deep runs in events. So this is, I'm probably going to have to go with the 6 in the end just because, like, it is a little disappointing because they upset teams they shouldn't have upset, but they also lost to matches that they probably could have won.
Mhm.
And that's not to say I think they should normally beat Spirit, but just the way you have them in that Mirage, the momentum you have going, like, you should be able to close that out.
Yeah.
They weren't able to do that. And that's something they're capable of, but that's what I would want to see for them to push the rating up a little more.
100%. So next we have one of our French teams, not the champion, but 3D Max. What do you think?
Yeah. Those guys are really fun to watch. I mean, I think the series versus Vitality was fun. You got to get a lot of excitement out of Apex, which always makes everything exciting.
Yeah.
But this team, they're overperforming. They're doing better than they should. I had this at an 8 for them just because I think they played out of their mind. Like, I don't think this is a team that's going to be making top 6s and top 8s.
Mhm.
I think they're just outside of that. I know their ranking is still pretty good right now. They feel like they're in that really good kind of 8 to 15 window, but I just think they're still a big step away from that kind of like top 7 or 8 team.
Yeah, I agree. It's super weird. I mean, some days they look like they're one of the best teams in the world, and they're like one of the most explosive teams ever when they're playing really good. But then there's other days where they come out and they're just completely cold. They fall flat. I have them at a 6 for this event. I think they did good in stage 1. They made it out pretty easily. And they also had a really good series against Faze. They kind of smacked Faze. And so once they won that, I was like, okay, we might be seeing a really good 3D Max going into this end of stage 2 and maybe even into the bracket phase. But then they come out and they play Vitality. They get smacked. I think that hurt their confidence a lot. They play Falcons next. They get smacked. And so like I was saying, it's really hot one day, and then the next day it's super cold. They actually had 2 days to prepare for these teams too. After they beat Faze, they had 2 days until they played Vitality. So I kind of thought that series might be a little bit closer, but it wasn't. I don't know. I really hope that they can figure things out because I think they're a fun team to watch. They're explosive, and I hope they can figure out their consistency problems.
So we already know, spoiler alert, that you don't like this Phase squad a whole lot. But what we got Phase doing?
I got them at a 4. My first below average rating. I think they should have been double bounced. They got stomped by 3D Max, and then they draw a BC game in the next series. I think if they draw literally any other team in the event, they get double bounced, and they lose them at the BC game as well. Kind of what I said earlier in the take out the trash segment. I just think Brokey and Twist kind of dropped the ball for this team, and I mean, it's not that I actually do think they have the potential to be a really good team. I mean, these are all good players. We know the only player that you would argue isn't really known is Jacob, and he's been one of their better performing players as of recently. So I think they could still figure it out, but something's up with this roster. They just have lost their firepower.
Yeah, for me, I got them coming in at a 5, and it's because at times they look like a 7, and at times they look like a 3. So it just averages out to a 5 because, like, the way they played BC game, if they played like that the whole event, they got a chance. And I get it. Like, you're trying to prove something to S1mple. I'm certain Brokey felt a certain type of way because S1mple's joke that I'm better than you, and
Yeah.
you're only there because I'm not. So I'm certain they had a chip on their shoulder, but, like, they didn't play like that the rest of the event.
Yep.
And it's like, if you play with that level of intensity and velocity, like, you have a good chance. But this is, I'll stand on this hill and die on this hill of, like, this team should have lost to the Red Canids. They should have been blown up. They shouldn't be here. And it's like, we're going to see a whole lot of this year where they're going to be getting 5s and belows. I have a good feeling. They might prove me wrong. They might go on another crazy run, but, like, this isn't a team that should be winning events.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And speaking of another team that's actually got blown up and is brand new, we have Astralis. So what do you think of this roster?
Dude, I actually got them coming in at a 9. I really like this team. And I think coming into this event, the reason it's a 9 is because there was such low expectations.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a first stab at an international squad. We really don't know how Stair and all these guys are going to kind of mesh together and meld. But, dude, they came out rolling. They were 1 win away from being able to make it into the next stage and, like, making it to that land presence and kind of showing up for the first time with this roster. And, like, dude, they're going to go deep into events. I don't know if they're quite poised well enough to start beating the big dogs, but minus really the top 3 or 4, like, I think they can beat anybody right now. And even those guys, they were given a run for their money.
Yeah, I have them at a 7. I kind of have the same sentiment as you. I think it's a team that I didn't have very much confidence with their new roster. They actually made their changes really late in the offseason, so they're kind of still really new. One thing I do think that was a little bit lucky for them was their matches that they got in the I think it was stage 2 actually because they played Parivision. So yeah, stage 2 they played both Foot and Parivision. So I think those are kind of lucky matches for them to have happen to have drawn there. But they played Furia really close, and Furia is a
Yep.
great team. Made it to the grand final. They lost 2-1 to them. Probably could have won that series as
Yep.
well 2-0. So that really weighed in a lot. I think Fizzy he looks really good on the op. So I'm excited to see what this team does. I put them at a 7 because I actually think there's still room to improve left for this
Yep.
team, and I hope they continue to improve and we see them back at the top.
Not for sure.
Maybe not the top, but like
But close to it,
yeah,
right?
competing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so now your beloved, the Falcons. What do you think of them?
Dude, I'm coming in with, I mean, I already said they're hot garbage, but I mean, coming in, this is a 4 for me. And it's a 4 for me because, like, if an average is 5, that's going to get you, if you're the Falcons, T4, right?
Mhm.
You weren't even able to make it to land. And at times they looked mighty inconsistent. At times they looked really good. And they did get a little bit of a harder draw. Like, they did it themselves because they lost early.
Yeah.
But because of that, they ended up having a hard draw and they couldn't make the land. It's like, it feels just like Furia, but Furia got in. If Furia doesn't make this draw, we're not talking about them at all. But then they get hot, they smoke Spirit, and they go on a run. And it's like, if you're the Falcons, you got to make it. You had to play MongolZ at the end. That's a good MongolZ team, but like,
Mhm.
you should be beating MongolZ. If you want to be capable of winning events, you have to beat the team that's not capable of winning at events.
Yeah, 100%.
So, like, for me, it's a 4.
I actually had them at a 3, even lower. I think they really pretty much every series that they played this event went what I thought shouldn't have happened. Besides
Yeah.
when they played NRG, I mean, they beat NRG. They are expected.
But
to
even
beat
that, they
NRG.
had a half where I was like, yo, what is this?
Yeah,
Yo,
100%.
NRG's like close.
Sorry, not NRG. It was 3D Max. 3D
Yeah,
Max was the only one where it went as I expected. It was like we should stomp this team. They stopped the team. NRG was close. They
Yep.
lost to Aurora. They lost to MongolZ. I think the MongolZ series was super close. They could have won that series, obviously, but it's like you said, you should be beating MongolZ. They haven't really had that much of a problem with MongolZ in the past, so it was odd to see. I think we need more out of Monacy, no question, in my opinion. And I also agree with your sentiment from earlier. I think Kixon and Tesses as well, that we need more from them. Tesses actually played really well at the Blast event to open the year, so I think we need that Tesses back if they want to be really
And
good.
Nico also looked a little bit weak at times, and it's one of those where you have a roster that you can't depend too much on Kyosuke. You can't depend too much on Nico. So either Monacy has to become a super alpha chat and carry you,
Mhm.
or you got to get rid of Kixon and Tessus. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, 100%.
Pick your battles.
And I think too, which we've seen this with a lot of different IGLs, like with Kixon especially as well. It's like, yeah, you're calling the strats and everything, but you gotta shoot your gun. Like you gotta be able to shoot your gun
Yep.
if you really want to be a contender. You look at Apex, he can play well. He
Yep.
makes clutch moments. He makes clutch plays, and so if they want to be a contender, I think Kixon's got to step up.
So now moving over to the big boys, the ones that actually got to play in front of an audience and, like, got to hear fans and stuff for the first time in a little while.
Mhm.
Maybe the Falcons will get there one day. We got Aurora coming in strong. Unfortunately, a 5th, 6th, but still made it that far.
Yeah, I think I had them at a 7. I think it was an exciting event for Aurora, especially the studio section. They played really, really good. They had some good wins against Falcons and MongolZ. Flame was extinguished against Vitality, obviously, but it wasn't that bad in my opinion. But the thing for me is, I mentioned him earlier, the shining star of Soulfly. I think he can bring a lot to this roster, and I think we've already seen that he's improved the I guess, demeanor of this team because at the end of last year and just everything really that happened with the switch from Eternal Fire to Aurora was kind of sad because they were playing so well at the beginning of last year.
Yep.
It's exciting to see them back where they're at this year. I think that they have potential to do even better. And I think Soulfly, he played bad on land, but it was his first land. I mean, I think he got a little bit nervous personally, but I think this team showed that they had the capability to be a contender.
Now, for sure. I got them coming in at an 8. I mean, the biggest reason for that is, like, I think this team is still capable of winning events, and I don't want to, like, discredit that and make them say, like, oh, you should celebrate 5th, 6th.
Mhm.
But, like, before this event, we were talking about blowing this team up.
Yeah.
Like, Xantaris leave, get on the jet, go somewhere, get saved.
Mhm.
But, like, now it's like, okay, cool. Like, this team's got a chance. They can stay together, Soulfly and everybody settle in. Major actually looked good again. He didn't look like he was the absolute problem. I do think Vitality and some of the big boys are still going to kind of bully him.
Mhm.
They're going to need those guys to have a bad day to probably actually get a win right now. But hey, if those guys have a bad day, I think this team's more than capable of capitalizing. And I think this team's on an uptick, which is good.
Yeah, exciting to see it. So going to the next team, we have G2. What do you think about them?
G2, when it doesn't matter, man, they look so good. And when it does matter, they look so, so bad. But I still got them coming in at an 8 because I still think this roster is a little bit underpowered, especially when you're trying to compete with the Falcons, when you're trying to compete with Vitality and Spirit and the big, big boys. And that's where it gets really, really hard for them because, competing with Furia is crazy and all these other guys. And some Papayas at times just doesn't hit.
Mhm.
Heavy God gets hot and cold. I think more often than not, Heavy God's a little bit more reliable, but some Papayas just looked not great when they got on land, and you really need him to step up. But the studio portion, they looked incredible.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that they're consistently going to hopefully start getting these top sixes is really good for them. And that's going to make these ratings get a little bit more harsh. But for now, I'm going to give them an 8. They're still looking good.
Yeah. For me, I went back and forth. I'm actually going to put them at a 6. I was thinking about maybe a 5 because I thought this was kind of an average performance. They did everything you would expect, and then they lost to everyone you would expect. But I kind of came to that realization that you had. I don't know if my expectations were just too high because it's like the G2 name. But then when I really looked at it, I was thinking like, yeah, this roster just doesn't have the firepower that these other guys have. I think S1mple, like, he has moments where he's a tremendous opper and then other moments where he's like actually one of the worst. And so I think that we saw that, especially in the bracket stage of this event. So their team, I think it was just slightly above average because of their firepower, and they were able to make it decently far. So I got them at a 6.
And that's one of those where, to me, it's like it's so confusing because like you look at MongolZ and m0NESY and ZywOo and Shiro all at the top, and then the gap to that feels so far. And that's that's where it might sound like I'm just glazing S1mple all the time, but it's like if you put him in S1mple, shoot, that team's better. And it's like the gap. It's such a weird ether from like 5 to 20 right now. Where like, sure, it could be S1mple. It could be S1mple. I don't know who's showing up today.
Yeah.
It could be anybody, right? And it's like, just feels weird at times.
Yeah, I agree.
The next one we got is another round deeper. We got Mouz. They came out looking hot, got an early win, then defeated, and then got smoked by Spirit.
Yeah, I have them at a 7. I think this was pretty much a normal Mouz performance, other than they actually beat Falcons this time. So that weighed in heavily, in my opinion. I also think Spinks played really, really good this event. I think we've had a lot of problems where whether it was going to be Spinks or if it was going to be Xertion that was really carrying this roster. I think Spinks really showed this event like, hey, we're making a run. I'm the reason that we're going to make this run because he played really well. And I think when they ended up losing, it was because he wasn't able to catch fire. So I think overall they really performed well. I wouldn't say this is their ceiling. I still think that they're a really, really good team. They have what it takes to win events. It's just a matter of can they actually do that and win these series against your giants. Like, I would put Falcons in that category, but they beat Falcons. But Furia and Vitality as well. Can they beat those guys? I don't know. I think they have what it takes, but they got to put it all together.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's hard because like I could see him at a 6, I could see him at an 8. It depends on what your expectations are for him. My current belief is this team isn't capable of winning in their current form. So if that's the case, then I think this is probably a 7. And that's mostly because the way they looked against Spirit was not good. They've not beat Spirit since the major in Austin, and they just haven't fared well against the best teams. They did beat Falcons. They did prevent the Falcons from getting in, and that's the biggest thing separating them from this 7 from a 5 is that is an upset to me. They did play above board for that, but then it's tough because then you see pre-playing Spirit, it looked like, hey, this is a competitive team, blah blah blah, but then you see them play Spirit, and you're like, okay, this isn't. You're not here.
Yeah,
but go back down a peg. So that's a little bit hard to watch.
Yeah, 100%. Now going on to Team Spirit, really good team. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's tough. I mean, it's probably a 7 is what I'll go with in the end. And that's because at times they look like, hey, this is the Spirit that's got a really good chance. But then at other times, it just didn't get there. I mean, I want to see the Spirit Vitality final so bad.
Yeah.
And it just feels like the world is preventing of that. Versus Furia, MongolZ came online and decimated Shiro. Donk couldn't carry. It is what it is. But then what's crazy to me, and it's a spark of hope and light, and that's probably the biggest uptick in their rating, is like versus Mouz, Donk didn't carry, and they looked good.
Yeah.
And it's like, and not trying to say Donk played bad, just everybody else actually played good. And it's like, if you can do that, then you can beat Vitality. You can beat Fury. You can beat Falcons. You can beat all these teams. If you don't do that, you will not. So hopefully it's a slight trend at the right direction. I'm glad they at least got third. They would have lost the Mouz. I don't know. I'd have probably been griefing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Mouz thing is what swayed my vote as well. I have them at a 6, just slightly above average. It's because the other event, it's not that they had a bad event. It's just that I have high expectations for this team. I mean, they have Donk and they have a good opper in Shiro. And it's kind of like you said, when they played another really top team and they had another really good opper pop off, Shiro just kind of went into the shadows. And I think that's kind of where I saw this team. I was going to put them at a 7, maybe. No, it wouldn't have been 8, but a 7 was what I was debating on. I think that kind of game against Furia really dropped them to a 6 for me, in my opinion. Everything was average. They beat G2. They beat Astralis. Those are teams you expect them to beat. But then when they play the top dogs, like your Spirits, your Furias and your Vitalities and even Falcons, it's like, what can they really do to really get over the hump there? I think they have, obviously, Donk, but it's hard for Donk to solo carry against those good teams. But the way that they played against Mouz, like you said, everybody else popped off. So that put them above average for me at the 6 rating. So we'll see what they do going forward.
Heck yeah. Moving on to Furia. They fallen hadn't lost a best of 5 in like a decade. Insane run. Unfortunately, they fall to Vitality in the end, but what you got?
I had them at a 7. I think this was like a super weird event because it was almost like 2 different events in my opinion. It's like stage 2, they were a shaky team. They lost 2-0 to
Yeah.
Foot. They had 2 ones against I think Astralis, Navi. Who was the other team? Did I write it down? No, I didn't. But or MongolZ, that was the other team.
Yep.
So a map taken off them by all those teams. So I think that stage of the tournament was like really weird for me. We had the segment where I thought
Yep.
like the old Fury is back. Like I don't
Yeah.
know if they're gonna
Back
be
in the mid.
yeah, I don't know if they're gonna be making grand finals or anything like that. But then the bracket comes and they just run through everybody. They make it all the way, take a map off Vitality. So I had them at a 7 because I think the bracket pushed them to that over average, and it was still a really good event for them. But I think the stage 2 shows some signs of worry.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's gonna be a 7 as well, and that's again, at times the event, it was looking like a 3 or 4 because I didn't know if they would make it to the literal LAN,
Mhm.
and then when they got to the LAN, they started rolling, and then kinda what MongolZ did on that Mirage to Spirit was crazy.
Yeah.
And that's one of those moments you're like, "Oh, man, this team is built different." And then the first map as well, you're like, "Hey, versus Vitality, this team comes out swinging, they're looking crazy." And then even the second map, they started coming back on that Inferno, and you really thought that, hey, Zai was popping off, but it's not gonna matter. This fallen led team is looking dangerous.
Mhm.
But then they kind of crumbled in the end. And that's what really hurts this team is like it kind of feels like they're not the best at getting punched in the mouth and getting back up. For the first time though, I saw MongolZ, he started trying to get the crowd into it and trying to kind of come back instead of hunkering down.
Mhm.
And you need more of that. But for this team to be dominant, like you need everybody to be firing on all cylinders. We need to see more out of Quesarado and Yuri. And it is what it is, but it's been fun. I still think they did good. They did above average for them, but the first part was scary.
Yeah. And now for the Giants of Counter-Strike, the team we all expect to win. What do you have from them, Vitality?
It's close between a 9 and a 10 for me on this. I'm probably gonna give it a 10 just because of the last 3 maps.
Mhm.
And that's like my lasting impression of the event. I mean, they dropped 1 map. Then it was the first one versus Furia, and that was maybe they were just kind of playing them a little shaky, trying to feel them out type deal.
Yeah.
The second map got close, even with Zaiwu playing like a monster, but then Flame stepped up, and then Mezzi stepped up. And there was one point where Apex was like 10-1 and he was slaying.
Mhm.
And it's like Rops was your quietest person there, and he didn't play bad. And this team is just almost indomitable, and it's like it just feels like we're about to be in another year of crazy Counter Strike. And I hope everybody else steps it up. But if they play at this level, I don't think it matters if everybody else steps it up. If they play like they did those last 3 maps.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was going back and forth as well between a 9 and a 10. I actually put them at a 9, and it was because I saw, and maybe this is just a little bit of bias, because they handled the business regardless. They didn't drop a map, but they only dropped the one to Furia in the grand finals. But they had a little bit of an easy bracket, or stage 2, I guess. They played
Yep.
BC Game, then they played Aurora and 3D Max. So I think those are teams that you expect them to really handle, and they did it. So maybe I'm wrong for dropping them a point for that. But I think things get different whenever you see teams like Spirit or Mouz or Furia. If they're playing teams like that are other top teams earlier in this in the event, maybe they lose a series, maybe they drop a couple of maps, but they handled their business. I think 10's very valid, but I gave them a 9.
Yeah, and it's also one of those where I really want to see them play. No offense to Mouz, but I really want to see them play Falcons and Spirit,
Mhm.
just because I think those games are really, really good games. It just feels like they got Mouz's number. Like it's not
Yeah.
even fun to watch.
Yeah, it's not. You know what to expect when they play Mouz, and it's just like Mouz just crumbles under that pressure. That's their like big brother in a sense, and they just can't beat them.
Yep, 100%. Well, thank you guys for checking out this post-match breakdown. We're going to be doing this for every event throughout the year. Should be pretty fun. We'll have scores all the way at the end to kind of see how teams perform throughout the season. Probably will be some roster changes, exciting moments, but at this rate, it looks like it's going to be Vitality averaging a 10 for the year, probably.
Hopefully not, but
Hopefully
we'll see.
not.
Yeah, they're a
Peace
great
out.
team. We like them, but they just can't run Counter Strike like they did last year.
100%. We'll see you guys next time.